Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity, your go-to financial podcast when it comes to financial information so that you can make a better informed financial decision. I'm your host, Jason Noble, and with me today I have Andy Merchant. We are financial advisors here at Prime Capital Investment Advisors, and I'm pretty excited to go into our fourth and final segment of cash flow and liquidity. Today, we're going to talk about understanding your personal financial statement, also known as PFS. Now, there's such an important topic because we're tying a bow on the entire cash flow and liquidity segment, four segments. This is the fourth and final. But before I go into it, just go to clearpicturefinancial.com, scroll down. You can see more videos, you can see more content. It could tie in the things that we're going to be talking about today for earlier podcasts. You can also enter in your information to schedule a conversation with one of our specialists. But with that being said, Andy, I want us to first define what is a personal financial statement.
My definition of a personal financial statement, it's a summary of your assets. So your total assets, incorporates in your total liabilities, and then it summarizes your cash flow. Pretty simple.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and so when would people use a personal financial statement?
Well, I think people should use personal financials all the time. The problem is it's an underutilized tool. But if you think about it, those that are more accustomed to using or who are probably listening or watching this right now that are like, yeah, I know what a personal financial statement. What am I really going to get out of someone telling me the value? Stay tuned because there's a lot of different things about how to incorporate it. But bankers want personal financial statements anytime you're going to like request a line of credit or a loan. So why don't you understand why they're asking for it, and how to use it, and then make sure that you're using it. Because here's how we're using it, Jason, mainly for our listeners and viewers out there. A personal financial statement allows us as your financial planner to help you make informed decisions around the health of your overall decision. It's one thing to come in and say, I've got a bucket of money. I need to invest it. I need to roll over my 401k. What am I going to to do with it? That's a short-sighted. Our traditional model of the wealth management industry is like, yeah, we'll take your at this, fill out a risk survey, and we're going to invest your money based on that and hope that we made the right decision. No. You got to take steps back. And you got to start with a personal financial statement because we want to understand when you're looking at this, is there a debt ratio? Because we can understand debt ratio from a personal financial statement. We can understand asset location. We've talked about that in past podcasts. If you haven't heard them, check those out through our website. And we can also look at liquidity ratios. All important features that come into fact just by looking at the asset and liability side of a personal financial statement to find the right investment for you. So I think it's so important that people start to look at it. They should review it and build it on a regular basis. During the Clear Picture Wealth program, we review these before our meetings. During our tactical meetings, we summarize it with our clients so they're aware of it. But yeah, I don't know if I got to your
Yeah, and
question on
part of the
that one. I went on
balance
a
and
ramble.
part of the personal financial statement, right? You got the balance sheet. So think of it in two categories. You got your assets on one side and then your liabilities on the other side. And when I'm talking about assets, I'm talking about the cash at the bank, any
Mhm.
cash value inside like a life insurance policy, government securities. It will tell me your total liquid assets, something that we talked about in just on segment three of the four-part series. Okay. But then you have your long-term assets. That will be real estate that's owned, um, automobile, business assets, IRAs and 401ks, that longer-term assets. Okay.
Yeah.
Then on liabilities, I'm going to be looking at, okay, what do you have as far as like credit card debt, right? Things of that nature, right? Short-term liabilities, current liabilities is what is described as on the balance sheet. And then you have long-term liabilities. Again, think of like mortgages, right? Longer-term debts. So I got the short-term assets, I got the long-term assets, I got the current liabilities and the long-term liabilities. Well, then it tells me what the total assets are and what the total liabilities are to give me your total net worth. I
Hmm.
just take what your assets are minus your liabilities, gives me your net worth. Okay, Good stuff so far. Pretty rudimentary for those who have gone through a PFS. But if you're just tuning in, it's the first time you've gone through this. This is pretty insightful information. The second thing that I'm going to look at is your cash flow, right? What's your personal income and the sources of those income? Is it salary? Do you have to be there for active employment work? Is it passive? Is it dividends, interest, things of that nature, right? Business income, right? What
Hmm.
does that look like? If I'm talking to a couple that's married, right? I'm looking at both of their incomes. Both of that comes in. Then I'm looking at the expenses. That's on the right hand side. So if you see, right, left hand side shows you what's going on with your assets and your positive cash flow coming in. The right hand side is the bad side, right? It shows you the debt and it shows you all your expenses coming out, right?
Hmm.
What are your income taxes? What is your mortgage payments? What about any rental payments? Child support, any judgments? Insurance that you have, living expenses. You got to eat, you got to go out and do stuff, right? So then that tells me what your disposable income is. Okay, so in the top, I have what your net worth is, and then in the bottom of the PFS, I have what your disposable income is. Going to those ratios earlier that Andy was discussing, this allows me to look at that disposable income to determine what do we do from here? Where do we put that disposable income? Another way of saying disposable income is we got money in, we got money out. What do we do with the difference? What we do with the difference is disposable income. And then based off of your liquidity ratios, how much do you have in liquid, semi-liquid, or non-liquid, that could determine where we put the difference. Did I tie a decent bow? Right? You gotta love when we ask a question. You're probably over there going, "Yeah, Jason, that tied a nice bow on what you said before." I won't hear it though, okay, just in case, unless you call in and reach out to us so that we can have a more one-on-one conversation. But do you see how understanding a personal financial statement allows you to make better informed decisions over what's going on with your net worth, but also your cash flow? Andy, this is where I want you to go into share an example. I think that would be good. Share a story or an example of someone that you were working with that you got into their personal financial statement and drew attention to a situation that they were unaware of before you looked at it with them. And when you think of a good one, because I know you got one like rolling around right now, I'm going to share one real quick with everyone. This person works in a real estate business and has about 9 properties throughout Charleston. When you take a look at all the properties he has and the debt on the properties, it's showing me that he has $390,000 with debt with $4.2 million in fair market value on the properties. Okay, that's awesome. That tells me that he's not over leveraged. Okay, so
Hmm.
that tells me he's doing a very conservative real estate investment approach and strategy so that he's not over leveraged. If he was over leveraged, I would know that just by his debt liabilities. Okay, so right then and there, for those who don't do real estate investing, you just learned something new. For those who are doing something around real estate, yeah, you could argue that he's taken too conservative of an approach, right? That he should be leveraged even further so he could better get a better ROI. This is me knowing this particular client. He's in the right level of leverage, and the leverage that he has is low interest rate payments because we refinanced it in 2021. So there's that, right? Okay. Then I looked at the cash flow, money in, money out. What's the difference? The difference is $275,000 a year. That is what he has in disposable income. So what do we do with that 275? A lot of different things.
Hmm.
What I mean by a lot of different things is because he has high tax liability, we don't want to pay Uncle Sam what he's paying right now, which is about $150,000 a year. We are putting money into a 401k within his businesses along with a cash balance plan. So with those two types of scenarios, we're putting more money in not in semi-liquid, but we're also funneling a lot of money of that disposable income towards liquid assets so that we can make future real estate investment decisions and also handle the things that come up from owning all these rental properties, like tenants destroying it or not paying rent and things of that nature. So we're doing, do we have enough in liquid? Once we do, yep. Now we're doing the rest going into other types of accounts, and that's back funneling the semi liquid. Okay, so I shared my example and story. Andy,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to hear your example of story of working with a personal financial statement to draw out these ratios to make better informed decisions.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite ones, and for those that have worked with us or those that are looking to work with us, every one of our initial engagements start with we request a personal financial statement. If you don't have one, we've got templates that to help people think about it. Our program at Clear Picture Financial is really about being intentional with your money and your data, right? So before I share my story, I'm encouraging those that are out there that just want more clarity, starting with their personal financial statement, go to clearpicturefinancial.com, check us out, schedule a time with either Jason and I or one of our teammates will call you to start that discussion. It always starts with you. You can't start a journey without taking the first step. So we hope that this is informative, and this may be your action item. But let me tie it to a story to what I think resonates with a lot of our viewers and listeners, and just kind of those that are building and accumulating wealth. Is we live in a debt driven society, so everything is based. Our banking system are based on debt. To move forward, we base on debt. We always start right out of school. The first thing we do if we go to college is we take on debt, and go to school. And then now we got the student debt discussion. Then we want to buy a house that takes on debt. And so the reason I bring that up is I have this great client, done a lot of great things and building just a really exciting company overall that's out there. It's taken on debt along the way, right? I'm sure everybody out there watching and viewing this has done it. If you're one of those people that says, I got debt, the whole debt story figured out, call us. We'd love to learn from you as well. Maybe have you on a podcast. But what we did is, the big thing is the business started taking off, Jason, right? He's got a lot of cash flow coming in. Things are doing great. And he's like, okay, now what do I do? Because the debt was pretty significant part of his balance sheet. So much that I don't think a banker would take on any expansion. I bring this up because part of the deal is now we got cash flow. And I don't know about you, Jason, but a lot of advisors in a traditional approach may say, well, just pay off your debt. And I
Yep.
told the client, I go, that's a great idea. We should probably look at paying down some of the debt. Because I go, here's your challenge. Is I go, if we throw too much at the debt and then you need liquidity and you're still in debt, what happens? You borrow more debt and we're back in the same circle. And I think that's what happens with individuals when they're building these plans. They're not looking at their personal financial statement into the depth that it needs to be. It's like, okay, where do we put the money? So in this particular story, clients got cash flow. I said, let's do this. Let's take a third of it and let's put it into debt reduction. We're going to go identify that high debt, that insufficient, less optimal debt. We're going to go ahead and knock that down as aggressively as we can. Let's go ahead and put a little bit more into a cash management or investment strategy to take advantage of some of the market that could be out there, returns that are out there. And then let's take the other part, because we really don't know how well you're going to manage and monitor this debt. So we're going to put the other third into a bank cash, and then we're going to review it towards the end of the year to determine if we need to true up any of those other categories, add more to bank cash or pay more down debt, depending on how his business went. All of that was determined by just looking at his balance sheet. We didn't do any financial planning. We didn't run any of his legacy goals or plans. It was simply, here's how much assets I have, here's how much debt I have, and this is my income. What is the best thing I can do in order to put me in a position where a financial plan makes sense? Because at this point, it didn't make sense at all, right? There was no value a financial plan would have told them out of the traditional way of here's how much you save, or should you put more into a 401k. So I was really excited to go through that journey with this particular client, just to kind of showcase the power of what an understanding of financial statement could do. And my last point on it would be, if clients, or if you're out there and you're reviewing your personal financial statement on an intentional basis, whether that's 6 months, every year, you're going to start to see these changes happen, right? And at the end of the day, your ultimate goal should be improving your net worth and not just the single components that make up your asset side. And that's what the traditional investment space does, and what not reviewing your personal financial statement does. It just looks at single silos and not the whole picture. So I encourage you, run a personal financial statement, start running ratios, see how your health is. But that's we're making strides just by looking at personal financial statements every day.
Well, a thing that I also want to bring in to the conversation is with a personal financial statement, it helps me work with our clients and build out goals. We have goals on having better, let's say, cash flow analysis, right? So they have money in, money out. And we took a look at their money out, and we were like, okay, you have a lot of current liability, you have a lot of credit card debt and things of that nature. Let's come up with a good plan with your cash flow report to pay that down, right? And then by doing that, what does that mean to increase in their overall net worth by going through this experience and process? And but I start with the goal in mind, right? And like working that back. So you could use this for goal planning, which I think is awesome, right? That you could have this type of
Mm-hmm.
conversation by understanding what do you have right now? Where are you right now on your net worth? Where do you want to be, right? And it's about bringing these things together, and Andy, you said this is an important topic for you, and I agree with you. This is an important topic for me. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in September of 2023 that the average annual expenditure per household was just shy of $73,000. That's in for the year of 2022. That was up 9% from the year before, right? And we all know why. Inflation and things of that nature, right? But the average income before taxes only increased about 7.5% during that same time frame. Again, that was to the study that was done by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics back in September 2023. So our spending is going up, and as the average income only went up, didn't go up as much, right? So I mean, do you see why this is an important and passionate topic of Andy and I to be able to bring this information to the forefront? And how does this all come into play? This is where we know how to do this, but do you know how to take action?
Yes.
Right? You can't just sit on the information that we're providing and expect an improvement to happen. There's the person that I shared the story with earlier has a net worth of what was it? $4 million? Yeah, 3.7. 3.7 million. They're in the top, what, 5% of all Americans as far as net worth goes? But they didn't know what to do with their disposable income, which was $274,000 in the course of a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you could look at this and go, well, what a wonderful problem to have. And yes, that is a wonderful problem to have, but still, it's still a problem. It's the same problem if you have a disposable income of $275 a month and you don't know what to do with it. It's the same problem, it's just at a different scale. So, what are you doing to take ownership of this and accountability of this by using this information so you can make better informed decisions and then track the progress? I threw Andy a curveball question earlier, like, when would somebody need to know this? And I love how you hit it back, Andy. You said, well, I think everyone should need to know how to do this. And it's not just when, usually when you're going out to get debt, like a mortgage or something, and you got to collect your PFS together. But looking at this on a regular basis, I look at my own personal financial statement once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at it over the course of every month or every week. No, I don't do that. What I do is actually look at my cash flow over the course of the week, over the course of the month, over the course of the quarter. But then I use that quarterly review to then determine should I make any tactical decisions for the next 3, 6, or 9 months.
Yeah. Well, right, Jason. People out there aren't looking for complication, more complicated scenarios, or it's hard enough as it is to take the first step. That's why I started with a journey starts with one step. Personal financial statements are something that I think we are trying to teach in our to our youth and understanding these things, but they don't mean anything until you start building assets and you start taking on debt. But I think that you have to start with it. Um, I think it's more important than a financial plan to start the conversation. Because you could come into our office, bring a personal financial statement, and we could start building a roadmap just on that. Because everything else is all influenced by your goals, what you want, what you need. But if you want to realize those goals and needs, if it's important for you to retire on a date you want to retire, or better yet, just have retirement independence where you can control when you retire, or if you want to ensure you're going to leave a legacy, whether it's to your favorite charity, to your family, if you want to pay less taxes, all of that is going to be can be determined by just reviewing a personal financial statement.
As we wrap up here, Andy, the four-part series on cash
Yeah.
flow and liquidity, we're about to embark on our next four-part series, which is around retirement planning. We're going to be talking about setting retirement goals, what goes into that, different retirement accounts and how and what their benefits are, the pros and cons are. We're going to take Q&A. We're going to get questions from clients and listeners. Go ahead and send those questions in so that we could be able to address those questions around retirement planning. We're also going to go into strategies for comfortable retirement. I don't know anyone who wants to have an uncomfortable retirement, so we're going to talk about those who want to have a comfortable retirement, some strategies to consider. So with that being said, I'm Jason Noble, and that was Andy Merchant. You just listened to 20 minutes of clarity. Thank you so much. Go to clearpicturefinancial.com, watch other podcasts, scroll down, put in your information to secure a spot to speak with a specialist. Thank you so much, and have a great day.